Hebrews chapter 12 and verse 1 says this. It says, "Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles, and let us run. Let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us." Over the next number of weeks, we're going to be talking and speaking and preaching on the subject of let us run. And today I want to talk to you on run free. Run free. I don't know if any of you, Philip was talking about the Weight Watchers, if any of you, need to go to Weight Watchers or you do any kind of exercise. I love playing football, still love playing football. We play five-a-sides a couple of times a week. But over Christmas, I wasn't going to be getting to play as much football, so I thought whenever it comes to Christmas, I'm going to go out for a run. So I went out for a run. It was a lovely sunny day over Christmas, and I ran through the streets and the hills of Ballysillan. And I came down the Crumlin Road, down onto the Bilson Road, on the Ballysillan Road, feeling good, and then I hit Ballysillan Park. And I realized I'm not 16 anymore. I used to, whenever I was 16 years of age, I was able to run all the way up Ballysillan Park, straight up, right up to Napoleon's Nose, non-stop. And I got halfway up Ballysillan Park, and I'm like, okay, I need to walk. And I got back home, and my legs were like lead and jelly for like a week later. And I played football a couple of times a week, but this was just obviously working different muscles that had maybe fallen asleep at some point, like the thighs, and trying to run up them stupid hills whenever before I was able to. And I remember one time again coming over Ballysillan Road, and I come up past Ballysillan Presbyterian Church in the corner, and coming up that hill, and I pulled a calf muscle. and if anybody's pulled a calf muscle, then you know. And it went from running to, and you're trying to like style it out, but you can't, because everybody's driving past, and then you're that sore that somebody please pass that knows me, that I can kind of thumb a lift from, and they can drop me home. And I had to walk the whole way home like this. I was in agony, and you're trying to find some different way to walk and some different way to maneuver yourself to get back home. But I was in pain. I was in agony. And so I don't know if you know what it's like, to be a long distance running or whatever, if you've ever done any kind of running. But I believe that spiritually we are called to run. Spiritually, we are called to run with the freedom that God has given us. And that's what we want to challenge you to do. This year, I believe that we've got to run through 2022. I believe in 2022, spiritually, we've got to learn to run. Spiritually, we've got to know what it is to run with what God has placed on us. And so I want to encourage us today to run free, to take the calipers off. In the video there that we have just watched, I'm sure, I would say that probably Forrest Gump has probably been the most quoted movie of all time. And I'm sure at some point you've seen someone running and you've uttered those words, "Run, Forrest, run." Doesn't matter what their name was, but you're saying, "Run, Forrest, run." Stupid is, stupid doesn't. And I'm sure it's probably the most quoted movie of all time. And so we've probably said it at some, how many people have said it to someone? Come on, be honest. Yeah, "Run, Forrest, run." And this is the moment where you've got this kid, Forrest Gump, and he's got these what are called calipers that are stuck to his legs, that are there to give him strength and support and help him develop his legs. But in some way, while it's strengthening him and supporting his legs, it's also hindering him from being able to run free. And I want to challenge you today to run free, to take the calipers off. Because what happens is, I think that sometimes we become familiar with things that have attached themselves to our lives. We have become familiar with those things that at one time were maybe a support, were maybe needed and necessary, but now are becoming a hindrance from us running to the next level of which we are called to. I would say that we have become accustomed to living with the things that we become accustomed to living with. We become accustomed to living with the things we become accustomed to living with. This is what was happening in this kid's life. He'd become accustomed to the calipers when maybe he could run all along, and they were hindering him. And I'm wondering, what is it in your life that you become accustomed to, that maybe you need to let go of, that maybe you need to throw down to the side, leave behind? It might not be a bad thing, because often we talk about things that are a hindrance to us that are maybe bad, that are negative. But maybe at one point it was something for a time and for a season, but now it's time to say, you know what, that was good then, but now I've got to move on. Now I've got to take a step forward. What is holding you back? And very often I think that can be a mindset within us, a mindset of safety, a mindset of if I do this, I've never done this before, and I don't know what's going to happen, and there's a fear. And I'll tell you that as Christians, that we have not been called to a life of safety and a life of comfort. And sometimes I think we very, very, very easily get caught in that mode of just coming to church, of sitting down, of singing a few songs, and of our Christianity, on our Christian lifestyle, becoming comfortable and becoming safe, when God has called us to anything but that. God has not called you to a life of safety. I think that health and safety has gone a bit overboard in these days. I think we've become so risk averse in the days that we're living in. I had an argument with not so much an argument, I shouted at a guy. I didn't shout at him, but I did raise my voice. He worked for the NIE. And we've been trying to get the electric. We've got issues with our electric ground in Top House, and we're trying to get that open again and to be using it as an extension of what's going on here. And we're having to get a new meter put in. So our Spark put a new meter in, and then it had to all be reconnected up by NIE. And so our Spark, he puts the meter box up above the door where it has been for years and years and years and years and years going by. And so this other guy from NIA came out and he fitted their meter. So all that had to happen was NIE guy has to come out and there's these wires coming out of the meter box to go into the NIE meter. And all he has to do is just put them in, tighten them up, job done. Get it registered, that's us. And I'm thinking, brilliant, we're ready to go. And so he comes out and he has a look at it and he says, I didn't know that it was that high, and I don't have the right letters, I don't have the right equipment. And I met him and I said, well, that's all right, I'll get you a set of step ladders. I'll get you ladders that'll go up there, not a problem. And his response is, well, they're not NIE approved. That was, I did my best to not laugh at him, but I'm like, what? And then Tommy, he was upstairs and he comes down and he's like, what's happening, son? How are we? You ready to? Yes, son, ready to go here. Yo. And he says, no, I can't do it. I don't have the right ladders with me to get up there. I've only got a small set of step ladders. So Tommy's like, sorry, we've got step ladders. I'll get you ladders. Don't worry, son. We'll get you up there. You get them on the moon, I'll get you up to this meter. Don't you worry about it. And he says, no, but they'll not be NIE approved. And Tommy's like, what? And then a few minutes later, our Spark turns up. And the same goes through the same thing. I can't get up there because I don't have the ladders. And the Spark's like, I've got ladders. Don't worry about it. Oh, no, they're not NIE approved. And he wouldn't do the job. I was like, listen, I'll go and get a chair. I'll stand on a chair. I'll reach up. All you've got to do is stretch. Oh, no, I can't do it. It's not. And off he goes, and he wouldn't do the job. A few weeks later, the guy from the office, he comes out to have a look at it and, to determine whether they can do the job or not. And this is the guy that I eventually have a go at because he turns up in a hard hat. And I'm like, right, okay. And he's got all the gear on. He's got his hard hat on. And all I have to do is open a door and just show him. And it's not like a building site. And as he's looking at this thing, he says, no, it's too high. We need to get that lowered down to here. And I'm like, but there's no space for it because the door's not going to open properly. Yeah, I get that, but we've got to bring it down here. That's too high. It's too risky to get up there. And I'm like, you know what? See, you people and your risk assessments and your health and safety, it's absolutely crazy. And then he turns to me and he says, what, so you don't care about health and safety? At which point, Johnny kicked off. And I said, so I'll not say what it said. So he's like, I basically said, look, don't twist my words. That's not what I said. I says, but you're turning up here in your hard hat. And he says, and I started on him. He's like, oh, Pastor Jack, it's okay, And I'm like, so, right, okay, thanks, I'm Pastor Jack. So I then up my game even more. And I give it, what, 4, And we're living in an age where we have become so risk averse, where it's just like, it's too risky. We're living in days where it's like, you got packets of peanuts that says this may contain nuts, where you've got clothes that says do not iron while wearing. You've got stuff like this here because at some point in time. Someone ironed their shirt while they were wearing it, burned themselves, and then put in a claim. And we're living in an age of, I don't know, just stupidity. No common sense. Tommy Latimer tells me common sense isn't as common as what it used to be. And these are the days that we're living in, and I don't know if does that come into the church where we just want to be comfortable, where we just want to be safe, where we don't want to step out and do something different, where we don't want to step out and do something radical, where we don't want to step out and do something that might make us look stupid or might make a fool of us. I want to tell you that God has not called you to a life of safety and security and ease and comfort. That God has called you as sons and daughters of the Most High God, as ones who will be set up for an inheritance of His kingdom, that He has not called you to that life, but He's called you to a life of radical living for Him. I want to challenge you to run with that. Let us run. Let us run, church. In 2022, I want to challenge you and encourage you to run, to begin to run. To not be led up and to live out a life of safety, but I want to challenge you to run. Ernest Shackleton, he was an explorer. And it's rumored, it said that he put this statement out, this advertisement, because he was going to explore the Antarctic, and there's a bit of talk that says that this actually didn't go out, but this was an advertisement that is said that he wanted to put out, or that he did put out, as he's recruiting men to go on this journey in the early 1900s to the Antarctic. And he says this, he says, "Men wanted for hazardous journey, low wages, bitter cold, long hours of complete darkness, safe return doubtful, honor and recognition in event of success." What an advert. I tell you, if you want to recruit, then that's the way to do it. You might not come back, but if you do, then you'll get a bit of honor and recognition. You'll not get paid an awful lot either, but yeah, it'll be an adventure. And I think that's, if ever there was a call of Jesus Christ, a recruitment policy, then this was probably His policy, as He called men to follow Him, as He called women to follow Him, to be His disciples, to pursue Him. Then I think that this was attached to that. It wasn't, hey, come and follow me and I'll make your life great. Come and follow me and all your problems and all your troubles will all fall away. Come and follow me and I'll make your life easy and comfortable and safe. No, come and follow me, and I want to take you on an adventure. I think that Jesus would be telling people, come and follow me. You're not going to get paid an awful lot. There's going to be cold nights. You might not have anywhere to sleep. You might not have anywhere to stay. It's going to be long days, long hours. You're going to die. You're going to be martyred. You're going to be put to death in this world. You're going to have trouble. This is the recruitment policy of Jesus Christ. There was no such thing as, hey, come and you'll be blessed and you'll live in a big house and you'll drive a number of cars and you'll have lots of money in the bank. There was none of that in the Bible. We've messed up the blessing of God so much in the Western church. And so Jesus calls us, as He calls the disciples, follow me. He was calling them to a life of adventure. He was calling them to a life of pushing boundaries, to a life of exploration, to a life of taking steps and of living out a life that they never would have dreamed of. And it was a life that would ultimately lead in their death, because they understood and they recognized that life on this earth is short and it's not about here, it's about eternity, and they live with this eternal mindset. And they understood what it was to be a follower of Jesus. I didn't follow Jesus so that I can sit in church every Sunday. I didn't follow Jesus so my life could be easy. I didn't follow Jesus so this could be sweet. I followed Jesus. Stepped out of a boat, left my business, and followed Him because He's the Son of God, because He's the Messiah, because He's the one I want to live for. This is what the disciples had to weigh up in their minds as Jesus called them. Follow me. Watch what I'm doing, because I'm going to release you to do the exact same thing. And they seen amazing things happen in their lifetime. They raised the dead. They seen the sick healed. They laid hands on people. You read through the book of Acts. And the stuff that these men did as they pursued ministry. as they pursued the call of God on their lives. This is the life that God is calling us to. He's calling us to follow Him, to be followers of Him. So what does that mean that we need to step away from in order to follow Him, to pursue Him, to pursue this spiritual life that He's calling us to a life filled with the Holy Spirit, to a life filled with adventure? In Hebrews chapter 12, you can throw it up again there, Maggie, please. Thank you. Hebrews chapter 12 that we read at the start. We spoke about this before. Therefore, whenever you see the word therefore, we're always told that you've got to find out what it's there for. And in order to find out what it's there for, you've got to see what was written before. So in order to see what it's there for, you've got to refer back to Hebrews chapter 11, which we'll come to in just a second. Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, this is a reference to chapter 11. That's what it's there for. And in chapter 11, the writer of Hebrews gives us this amazing list of men and women who followed God, who didn't live this life of safety, who didn't live a life of comfort, but who followed the call of God on their lives. They had to run with what God had placed on them, with what God had put in them. And God has placed something on every single one of you. He has placed a calling and a destiny in every single one of you. And I'm challenging you, I want to encourage you to run with what God has put in you. Discover what that is and to run with it. And I want to encourage you to run free. To run free. And so in Hebrews chapter 11, it's this list of people who have ran free, who have followed God. And he talks later on in chapter 11 about how some of them have been sawn in half, how they have been put to death for their faith in God. They didn't pursue a life of safety and a life of comfort. They ran free. And they ran with what God had put on their lives, throwing off everything that hinders. Let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles. So what is it that you need to throw off? What is it that you need to leave in 2021 that will enable you to run through 2022? What do you need to lay down? What do you need to let go of? God is calling us all to grow and to develop in Him. And that will mean letting go of the things that we become accustomed to living with, those calipers that we need to let go of. Everyone that we read about in Hebrews chapter 11 all had to leave go of something, even in the disciples. Anyone, in fact, who has ever had to and be called to and taken that decision and that step to pursue the call of God on their lives has meant that they have had to walk away from something. And as you read through chapter 11 of Hebrews and you look at those men and those women, then you will discover that they had to walk away from something. Whenever I look at the lives of the disciples, Peter and Andrew and James and John, they had to step out of a boat. They had to walk away from their business. They had to walk away from their families, from their family business. Walk away from their father, James and John, the sons of Zebedee. It was a family business. They had to walk away from that in order to follow Jesus. Matthew, the tax collector, had to step away from his tax collecting business, step away from the booth and begin to follow Jesus. There was comfort in this. There was comfort in the fishing. There was safety and security in the fishing and in the tax collecting booth. Regardless of what his family and friends would have thought of him, yet there was comfort in that. There was safety and security in that. But they left it to follow Jesus. Moses had to leave the palace. Abraham had to leave his country. John the Baptist had to leave the priesthood. I love the story. We don't often talk about this here. But John the Baptist, his father was a priest, therefore as a son. Then John the Baptist would have been in the priesthood, in that family and of that family line and through his father. But what we find with John the Baptist is that John the Baptist is living in the wilderness, living off locusts and honey and wearing camel's hair. He is gone from the safety and the security of the religious system. And he's walking in the desert. He's walking in the wilderness. These are the things that these men had to walk away from. The calipers that would have meant security and safety had to go in order for these men to run free. What is it that you need to let go of? What are the calipers in your life And it could be a certain mindset or a certain belief that just is just you thinking, well, I can't do that. I can't step into that. I can't. No, that's not for me. No, no. No, I'm okay here. I'm okay here. God has not called you to just okay here. God is calling you to so much more. And He's calling you to run. Worship team, come. He's calling you to run with what He has placed on you. And I want to challenge you in 2022 to run free. I want to challenge you in 2022 to run wild. I want to challenge you in 2022. Let's just do something that you've never done before. I don't care what it is. It don't have to be overly spiritual. Just do something that you've never done before. Get out of your life of comfort. I preach this to me as well, as much as any one of you. The thing about the video, when Forrest, he begins to run and those calipers come off, is that had those bullies, had those boys, had those other kids not begun to attack Forrest, then Forrest never would have ran. It took that attack from those boys to cause Forrest Gump to run. And sometimes God will call us like I am today, calling us to run free, to run wild. And sometimes if we don't take up that opportunity to run free, then sometimes something in life will come against us that will force us to run free, to run wild. And so whatever it is that you're going through in your life, I'm not saying that this is the reason why, but God will always bring purpose out of it. No matter how messed up it is, God will always bring purpose out of it. And the purpose will always be, the number one purpose will always be, above everything else, to draw us closer to Him. Because it's in walking closer to Him that we will run free. Everything comes down to how close we are to God. The closer you get to Him, the closer you walk with Him, the freer you will feel. You will feel freer from intimidation and from what other people think, free from your past, free from history, free from everything else. The closer you walk with Him, all of this will fade away. You will have that confidence. We'll maybe talk about this next week on running with confidence. But for today, I want to encourage you to run free. In Isaiah chapter 40, as I come to a close, it says, "Those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not faint." They will run and not grow weary. Those who hope in the Lord, you see, it all comes out of God, of your relationship with God, of walking close with Him. The closer you walk with Him, the freer you will run. Forget about everybody else. Forget about what other people think. Forget about what you've done. Forget about what you've been through. Come to a place where you're going to decide, I want to run. And I want to run free. Free from intimidation. Free from fear. Free from worry. Free from our own mindsets that hold us back. Let's talk to yourselves with positivity and say, instead of saying, no, I can't do that, let's say, you know what? Why not? I can do this. I can. I want us to run through 2022 with freedom. Run free. Those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run. They will run. They will run. Whatever it is that's coming against you, allow that to be the thing that is a catalyst to you running. To you running. And let your run be towards God. Let your run be towards Jesus Christ. Let your run be towards the cross. Let your run be with Jesus Christ. Will you run, church? Will you run through 2022? Will you run? Will you run? Will you run free?